and welcome back to Ross Taylor Woodworks. This time I've got a little 1940s octagon table with a leather top on it. And it's in very poor condition. The leather is peeling off and it's severely sun damaged. And the finish is all sun damaged on the other side here. And a couple of legs are loose. So this is going to need a complete redo. Unfortunately, I can't do this leather top. So I've been trying to come up with another solution to replace the leather top. I've been thinking through some other options. So first I'm going to take it all apart, get the leather off, and then go from there, try to figure out the best way to treat the top. Alright, I got that all peeled off. Putting another leather top on here just doesn't make sense. It's very, very expensive to get leather. And I don't do this tooling. This is gold leaf tooling here. You have to lay this gold leaf. I don't do that. And the leather is very, very expensive. For the value of this table, it just doesn't make sense. The veneer border is in very poor condition. There's a little piece missing here. And there's a big chunk missing right here. So it doesn't make sense to try to patch this in. I've been thinking of other options. Veneering it, I don't like that option. The new veneers these days are so thin. And in the past I've had trouble with veneers bubbling up. It's very difficult to lay those veneers flat and get them to stay flat, and just ends up being a mess. One option is to get some thin mahogany boards and laminate the top. Be almost like a veneer, but it'd be much thicker. One option I was thinking of is I have this burgundy vinyl. I was thinking of stretching that over the top after sanding this smooth, stapling it on the edge here, and then covering it with a trim. That's going to be a lot of work, making all this trim. And there could be a potential of this wrinkling in the future, even if it's glued down. Or a third option here is to finish this poplar layer. Appears to be a thick layer of poplar right here. That's the top veneer. So I might be able to sand that and finish that to look like mahogany. That might be the best option at this point. Okay, unfortunately that poplar layer is not thick enough to sand and finish. I started to burn through it right here. I was trying to get rid of this ghost image of the veneer. I can't have that if I'm going to try to stain this. And ended up going through right here. So, going to have to come up with another option for the top here. But first I'm going to take it downstairs and get the finish stripped off. That'll be a quick, easy strip. Okay, here's where we're at with this. I've got this stripped down. I've got the legs repaired, partly sanded. We got a little bit of sanding done on the sides here. They're fine. But I've been going round and round about what to do at the top here. I was looking on eBay for some mahogany boards, but I couldn't find anything that would be the right fit for this. If you remember last year I did a project, did a video of a chest of drawers that I needed a panel for the side. I had to replace a panel on the side, and I purchased a piece of mahogany for that, and it was just the right size for that. I was able to cut and fit and make a panel for the chest of drawers. But for this, I couldn't find anything on eBay that was the right dimensions that would work for this. I was able to find some packets of mahogany, but they were too short and not wide enough to cover this area. And any kind of large pieces of mahogany, thick pieces of mahogany, are just way too expensive. So I've been going around and around on what to do with this. I don't like the idea of doing a vinyl. I don't think the customer would be happy with that, and I'd have to do a lot of trimming and carefully staining the edge, and I just don't think that would work. So I'm going to do something I did before with a shiffer robe. It was a mahogany shiffer robe. I think it was last year as well, but was not on a video. I made a new veneer for the top. The top of this shift robe, all the veneer was completely bubbled and gone. So what I did, use some walnut and made a veneer of walnut for the top, since I don't have any large mahogany of any kind, and there's no place in my area that I can get mahogany. If I have to get any mahogany, I have to order it from somewhere, and it's just very, very expensive. So I'm going to do what I did on that shift robe is use some walnut. I've got a big thick piece of walnut. I'm going to make my own veneer. I'm going to make little thin strips of walnut. They're about 5 inches wide, and cover this whole area with a thin walnut veneer. So it'll be maybe 3/16 or so inch thick. And I think that'll work. I can do some color matching to make it look like the mahogany. And to the casual eye, you really can't tell the difference between the mahogany and the walnut. Alright, here's this thick piece of walnut. I think I purchased this at a sawmill a long time ago. He had a bunch of walnut. We got a real good deal on it. So I've had this for a long, long time. And for that shiffer robe, I used one end of this here. That piece had a few little knots in it. That was okay for the shiffer robe. That didn't really matter too much, that there were a few little tiny knots in it. But I want nice clear pieces for this. So right in the middle here, I can get, there's one little knot here, so I'm going to avoid that. And I'm going to make the veneer out of this section here in the middle. I'm going to make some thin strips out of this middle section. It's nice and clear. There's a couple defects on the back side here. Hopefully I can avoid those. So that's the plan. Okay, after squaring up the boards, I'm going to resaw them at 3/8 of an inch. First making sure the blade is perfectly square. Run one side through, and then flip it over. And it's nice and smooth when you get the blade nice and square. I'm going to make 6 pieces just like that. Now next is to run them through the portable planer. I like the portable planer for doing thin stock. It makes a much smoother finish. Just one light pass on each side. Now I'm going to lay out the boards and figure out which is the best face. Now some have a little knot in the middle. I ended up with some knots in the middle. That's not a big deal. So just arrange them so they look good. And then mark the boards, which way they're going to go. Now first I'm going to glue them up in 2 panels of 3 each. Now after the glue dried, I'm going to run them through the drum sander. Make multiple passes until I get down to 3/16 of an inch. Now I'm going to clip the corners. It's going to leave about 3/4 of an inch extra. Now I'm going to go over to the outfeed table of the table saw. I like to use this for clamping things up. Now I'm going to get those 2 panels glued together. Now that they're sanded down to 3/16 of an inch. Okay, I just finished up doing a dry clamp. I've got a bunch of blocks and clamps ready to go. So now I'm ready to glue it down to the top. First thing I did was raise it up off the bench. I put some 2x4s on the bench here and screwed them to the bench. So I can get this up off the bench and get some clamps underneath. And I'm going to mask off the bottom here. I don't want to get glue dripping down on the apron here. Alright, I got that all clamped up. Now these are those little pins that I put in just to keep the veneer from sliding. Okay, this is what the top looks like right now, with the veneer glued down. This is the original top right here, and this is the veneer glued on top. Originally, there's a little step in the edge here. So now I've got to trim this veneer back so it's flush with this outside edge. So I'm going to use the flush trimming bit and ride the bearing right along this edge and trim the veneer back flush with this. Then what I'm planning to do is use kind of an OG bit and just use this bottom portion right here, and that bearing will ride along the same edge, and just kind of scoop that out, give it more of a cove edge than this rabbit edge. Okay, now right along this edge, I'm going to be cutting against the grain here. So I'm going to have to go with the grain here, run the router backwards, do what I call a climb cut, is go into the grain this way, and the rotation of the bit will go this way. If I go in and the rotation is this way, I'm going against that, that could chip out. So I got to be careful along this edge. There's two edges like this. Now I switched to the OG bit. I'm scoping out that corner. And here, going against the grain with that is not a problem. I'm going to clean up this edge here, and I'm using a couple of these what are called tadpoles, and trying to shape the edge here, shape this little cove. There's still a little bit of this edge showing, and I don't want to take too much out because I'll get too thin right here. This edge will start to get too thin. So I'm going to take some wood filler and just fill this in a little bit and sort of like spackle this edge, and come back and sand it smooth. Then later on we'll do some touch-ups and darken that edge, and you won't even see that. Now I'll do all the final sanding. First off, starting with 80 grit, and then go 100, 120, and then finally finish up by hand with 150 grit. Okay, now I'm starting the staining. First I'm going to start off with a mix of mahogany and walnut stain. Now on the top where the new walnut is, I'm going to hit that first with a little bit of red mahogany dye. Then put the mahogany and walnut mix on that. After a couple coats of shellac, I'm going to give it a scuff sanding. Now I'm going to take deep red mahogany dye and go over the whole table. Now I'm going to mix up sort of a dark mahogany color with the pigments and color in those edges where I did the little bit of filler. Now a couple more coats of shellac. Then after that I decided to do a red mahogany glaze. This is red mahogany stained, thinned down with some naphtha. Decided to need a little more red mahogany color and to darken it up. I'm going to wipe off most of it and then do a dry brushing. And after that, a few more coats of shellac. Then another scuff sanding. Now the final top coats of the polyacrylic. Now on the base, I'm just going to hit that with 2 light coats of the acrylic spray. Now I'm into the final rub out. First I'm going to go over it with the 320 grit paper. Then follow up with the maroon pad and then some steel wool. And after that I'll hit it with some furniture polish. Okay, this is all done. If you recall, the original leather top was all sun damaged and peeling up. And the finish was completely gone from sun damage. So I looked into some other options for redoing the top here, and I couldn't find anything on eBay, any mahogany that would work. So I ended up using some walnut that I had on hand. I've done that before to match up with the mahogany, and it matched up very well. I did some color matching to get it all to blend in, and it looks terrific. And the casual eye will not be able to tell the difference between the mahogany and the walnut. It looks so similar. So there we go.